the United Nations to meet the emerging global challenges of the 21st century. Mr. President, we on our part, India, has been working to make the multilateral system fit for the challenges it faces, as well as more transparent to deliver on citizens' expectations, not least by fully supporting reforms to modernize the United Nations and improve the functioning of the World Trade Organization. We are committed in our relentless efforts to enhance the voice and representation of emerging and developing economies, especially those in Africa, in the decision-making bodies of the multilateral mechanisms, which is pivotal for strengthening international law and the multilateral framework. In this regard, Aalco's role as the only intergovernmental organization uniting continents of Asia and Africa in the field of international law in promoting international legal order is truly extraordinary. Aalco's contribution in various fields ranging from law of the sea, human rights, including refugee law to international trade law, deserves special appreciation. I would like to conclude here, Mr. President. We look forward to actively participating in the deliberations on the agenda items, and once again thank the government of Tanzania and the Aalco Secretariat for the arrangements they have made for this session. Thank you very much.
Thank you, delegation of India, for the kind words to Aalco and Tanzania, and also for underscoring the significance of international law to peace and security and the significance of multilateralism to its relevance to Aalco. Thank you very much indeed. The next speaker in my list is Nepal. Please take the floor, Nepal.
अध्यक्ष महोदय, माननीय मन्त्रीज्यूहरू, महामहिमज्यूहरू, महासचिवज्यू, विशिष्ट प्रतिनिधि एवं पर्यवेक्षकहरू, महिला तथा सज्जनवृन्द, सर्वप्रथम अध्यक्ष र उपाध्यक्षज्यूलाई सर्वसम्मत रूपमा निर्वाचित हुनुभएकोमा नेपाली प्रतिनिधि मण्डल र मेरो व्यक्तिगत तर्फबाट हार्दिक बधाई ज्ञापन गर्न चाहन्छु। तपाईको यो जिम्मेवारी निर्वाहमा हाम्रो तर्फबाट पूर्ण सहयोग र समर्थन रहने कुरा विश्वास दिलाउन चाहन्छु। 57औं अधिवेशनका निवर्तमान अध्यक्ष महामहिम श्री कोजी हानादाले यस संस्थालाई दिनुभएको योगदानको कदर गर्दछु। अध्यक्ष महोदय, विज्ञान प्रविधि र अन्तरआबद्धताको क्षेत्रमा भएको विकासले नयाँ अवसरहरूको सृजना गर्नुको साथसाथै वातावरण विनाश, जलवायु परिवर्तन, विश्व अर्थतन्त्र, मानवाधिकारको क्षेत्रमा नयाँ समस्याहरू वृद्धि भइरहेका छन्। विश्वले अहिले यस्ता बहुआयामिक समस्या र चुनौतीहरूको सामना गरिरहेको छ। यी चुनौतीहरूको समाधान कुनै पनि देशले एक्लै गर्न सम्भव छैन। अन्तर्राष्ट्रिय सहयोग र साझेदारीमा आधारित बहुपक्षीय प्रणालीबाट मात्र यी चुनौतीहरूको सामना गर्न सकिन्छ। विश्व तथा क्षेत्रीय स्तरमा आपसी संयन्त्रको निर्माण गरी यस्ता बहुपक्षीय प्रणालीको विकास गर्न आवश्यक छ। हाम्रा सामूहिक हितहरूको प्रवर्धन गर्ने सबैभन्दा प्रभावकारी उपाय आपसी सहकार्य हो र सहकार्यको माध्यमबाट लिने निर्णयहरू बढी प्रजातान्त्रिक, समावेशी, सुदृढ र दिगो हुन्छन् भन्ने कुरामा हामी पूर्ण सहमत छौँ। अन्तर्राष्ट्रिय स्तरमा हुने साझेदारीहरूलाई बहुपक्षीय र क्षेत्रीय स्तरका आपसी संयन्त्रहरूमा आबद्ध गरी त्यसलाई अन्तर्राष्ट्रिय कानुनी संरचनाभित्र ल्याउन आवश्यक छ। यसले अन्तर्राष्ट्रिय कानुन प्रणालीलाई सुदृढ गर्नेछ। यसले विश्वमा लोकतन्त्र र मानव अधिकारको संरक्षण र सम्वर्धन गर्दै विश्वमा शान्ति बहाल गर्न प्रत्यक्ष रूपमा सघाउ पुर्याउनेछ। वर्तमान र भावी पुस्ताका लागि शान्तिपूर्ण, सुरक्षित र समृद्ध विश्व निर्माण गर्ने हाम्रो सामूहिक जिम्मेवारी हो। यसका लागि हामी बहुपक्षीयवादको कुनै विकल्प देख्दैनौँ। अफ्रिकी र एसियाली बहुपक्षीयवाद प्रवर्धन गर्नमा आल्कोको भूमिका आगामी दिनमा अझ महत्त्वपूर्ण रहनेछ भन्ने कुरामा म पूर्ण विश्वास गर्दछु। अध्यक्ष महोदय, अन्तर्राष्ट्रिय व्यापार र विदेशी लगानीमा वृद्धि तथा नागरिकहरूका बीचमा विश्वव्यापी रूपमा बढ्दै गएको सम्पर्कले अवसरका साथै कानुनी समस्याहरू पनि सृजना गरिरहेको छ। यस्ता समस्याको न्यूनीकरण गर्न देवानी तथा वाणिज्य व्यापारसँग सम्बन्धित विवादका कानुनी स्पष्टता तथा न्यायमा पहुँच सुनिश्चित हुन आवश्यक छ। हामीले जोड दिइरहेका बहुपक्षीय संयन्त्रले यस प्रकारका कानुनी समस्याहरूको समाधान गर्न मुलुकहरूका बीच न्यायिक सहयोग आदान प्रदान गर्नेछन्। विश्व व्यापार र विश्वव्यापी लगानीबाट विकासशील देशहरूले लाभ प्राप्त गर्न ती मुलुकहरूका कानुनमा सो अनुरूपको कानुनी स्पष्टता तथा क्षमता अभिवृद्धिका बहुपक्षीय सम्झौता र आपसी सहयोग संयन्त्रहरू अपरिहार्य हुन्छन्। अध्यक्ष महोदय, महासागर र सामुद्रिक स्रोतहरू मानव जातिको साझा सम्पदा हुन् र महासागरबाट प्राप्त हुने लाभहरू पक्ष राष्ट्रहरूबीच निष्पक्ष र समान रूपमा बाँडफाँड गरिनुपर्छ भन्ने कुरामा नेपाल विश्वस्त छ। समुद्री कानुनको सिद्धान्तलाई ध्यानमा राखी भूपरिवेष्टित राष्ट्रहरूको खुला समुद्रबाट र समुद्रसम्मको पारावहन सम्बन्धी स्वतन्त्रता सुनिश्चित गरिनुपर्दछ। यही अवसरमा मेरो प्रतिनिधिमण्डल जलवायु परिवर्तनमा पहाड र समुद्रबीच रहेको अन्तर्सम्बन्ध सम्बन्धी तथ्यलाई दोहोर्याउन चाहन्छ। जलवायु परिवर्तनका कारण हिम नदीहरू पग्लँदा समुद्र सतहमा वृद्धि भएको छ र यसबाट तटीय क्षेत्र र हिमाली जनजीवन र बासिन्दा गम्भीर रूपमा प्रभावित भएका छन्। हामी त्यसको प्रत्यक्ष जोखिममा रहेका छौँ। आफूले नगरेका कार्यबाट सृजित परिणामको पीडाबाट हिमालय क्षेत्रदेखि समुद्र सतहसम्मका हामी धेरै देशहरू आक्रान्त भएका छौँ। सामुद्रिक जैविक विविधता र सामुद्रिक वातावरण संरक्षण गर्ने कुरालाई साझा जिम्मेवारीका रूपमा ग्रहण गरिनुपर्छ भन्ने कुरामा हामीले जोड दिइरहेका छौँ। तसर्थ म हिमालयन जैविक विविधता र सामुद्रिक जैविक विविधता रक्षा गर्न ठोस संयन्त्रको आवश्यकतामा जोड दिन चाहन्छु। यसका अतिरिक्त विकासशील विशेष गरी भूपरिवेष्टित राष्ट्रहरूलाई सामुद्रिक स्रोत, प्रविधि हस्तान्तरण र क्षमता अभिवृद्धिमा साझेदारी गरिनुपर्छ। विशेष गरी विकासशील देशहरूसँग महासागर र त्यहाँको स्रोतबाट लाभान्वित हुन सक्ने किसिमको क्षमताको सर्वथा अभाव रहेको छ। अत BBNJ का सम्बन्धमा कानुनी रूपमा बाध्यकारी दस्तावेज विकास गर्ने सम्बन्धमा भइरहेको वार्तामा नेपालले आल्कोको अहम भूमिकाको अपेक्षा गर्दछ। अध्यक्ष महोदय, साइबर अपराध अन्तर्देशीय चुनौतीको रूपमा तीव्र गतिमा बढिरहेको छ। अन्तर्राष्ट्रिय समुदायले संयुक्त रूपमा यसको समाधान गर्नुपर्ने आवश्यकता रहेको छ। बुडापेस्ट महासन्धि साइबर अपराध सम्बन्धी विद्यमान एकमात्र बृहत बहुपक्षीय दस्तावेजको रूपमा रहेको छ। बुडापेस्ट महासन्धिले निर्धारण गरेको मापदण्डसँग मेल खाने गरी घरेलु कानुनहरू बनाएमा त्यसले साइबर स्पेसको सुरक्षित प्रयोगमा मद्दत पुर्याउँछ भन्ने कुरामा म विश्वस्त छु। नेपाल साइबर स्पेसका सम्बन्धमा बनेको ओपन इन्डेड वर्किङ ग्रुप अन इन्टरनेसनल ल इन साइबर स्पेसको चौथो बैठकको सभापतिबाट प्रस्तावित द्विपक्षीय प्रस्तावको स्वागत गर्दछ। साइबर स्पेसमा लागू हुने अन्तर्राष्ट्रिय कानुनका आधारभूत सिद्धान्त स्पष्ट गरिएको नन बाइन्डिङ साधारण दस्तावेजले साइबर स्पेस र अन्तर्राष्ट्रिय कानुनका सम्बन्धमा घरेलु कानुन र राष्ट्रिय नीति अवलम्बन गर्न दिशानिर्देश गर्नेछ। अध्यक्ष महोदय, मेरो प्रतिनिधिमण्डल यस अधिवेशनको लागि स्वीकृत एजेन्डाहरूको स्वागत गर्दछ। समुद्र सम्बन्धी कानुन, साइबर स्पेसका सम्बन्धमा अन्तर्राष्ट्रिय कानुन, विवादको शान्तिपूर्ण समाधान, अन्तर्राष्ट्रिय कानुन र व्यापार र लगानी सम्बन्धी कानुन लगायतका विषयहरू सदैव महत्त्वपूर्ण तथा गहन विषयवस्तुहरू हुन्। अध्यक्ष महोदय, यस समारोहमा म मेरो देशका केही उपलब्धिहरूका बारेमा जानकारी गराउन चाहन्छु। हालसालै हामीले दीर्घकालीन विकासको दृष्टिकोणबाट 15औं पञ्चवर्षीय योजना पारित गरेका छौँ। नेपाल पक्ष भएका अन्तर्राष्ट्रिय सन्धि सम्झौताको कार्यान्वयनका साथै मानव अधिकारको संरक्षण र सम्वर्धनको लागि कानुनी शासन कायम गर्ने लगायतका राष्ट्रिय तथा अन्तर्राष्ट्रिय मञ्चहरूमा गरिएका प्रतिबद्धता र दिगो विकास सम्बन्धी 2030 को रणनीतिक र अन्य अन्तर्राष्ट्रिय रूपमा सहमत गरिएका लक्ष्यहरूलाई राष्ट्रिय योजना र कार्यक्रममा एकीकृत गरिएको छ। संविधान कार्यान्वयन भएको 3 वर्षभित्र मौलिक अधिकार कार्यान्वयन गर्ने उद्देश्यले कानुन निर्माण गरी जारी भएका छन्। त्यसै गरी संविधानको जनादेश बमोजिम सङ्घीयता कार्यान्वयन र अन्तर्राष्ट्रिय दायित्व पुरा गर्न करिब 350वटा कानुन संशोधन गरिएको छ। नेपालमा सङ्घीयता कार्यान्वयन गर्ने सम्बन्धमा यसबाट ऐतिहासिक उपलब्धिको रूपमा लिइएको छ। संविधान जारी भएको 3 वर्षमा पूर्णतः लोकतान्त्रिक विधिमा आधारित स्वतन्त्र निर्वाचनको माध्यमबाट 3 तहका सरकारको निर्माणको साथै राज्य पुनर्संरचनाका लागि हामीले दूरगामी महत्त्वका कार्य गरेका छौँ। यस ऐतिहासिक उपलब्धिलाई कार्यान्वयनमा ल्याई समृद्ध नेपाल सुखी नेपाली राष्ट्रिय नारालाई सफल तुल्याउन नेपाल सरकार आर्थिक विकासमा केन्द्रित छ। यसमा अन्तर्राष्ट्रिय समुदायको सहयोग र सद्भावको पनि उल्लेख्य योगदान रहेको छ। यसका लागि म यहाँहरू सबैलाई नेपाल सरकारको तर्फबाट हार्दिक धन्यवाद दिन चाहन्छु। अध्यक्ष महोदय, यस अधिवेशनको आयोजना गर्नुभएकोमा र हाम्रो प्रतिनिधि मण्डलप्रति दर्शाउनु भएको न्यानो आतिथ्य सत्कारको लागि तान्जानिया सरकारप्रति हार्दिक कृतज्ञता व्यक्त गर्दछु। अध्यक्ष महोदय, यो अधिवेशन आफ्नो उद्देश्यमा पूर्ण रूपमा सफल हुने कुरामा मेरो विश्वास छ। धन्यवाद।
I thank the delegation of Nepal from a landlocked country and the emphasis he has placed on climate change and cyberspace challenges. Now I call upon the Republic of Korea, South Korea.
Thank you, Mr. President. On behalf of the government of the Republic of Korea, I would like to express my sincere gratitude to the government of the United Republic of Tanzania for the annual session of Aalco for the third time after having presided at this organization in 1986 and 2010. The grand opening ceremony held yesterday morning was kindly graced by the high-profile presence of Her Excellency Samia Hassan Suluhu, Vice President of this beautiful, peaceful, and fast-growing country, which clearly showed us the importance the Tanzanian government has put in this august body. Let me also express my delegation's special thanks to His Excellency Ambassador Koji Haneda, President of the 7th Aalco annual session, for the Japanese government's successful leadership and cooperation with the Aalco Secretariat for the last 1 year. I am pleased to congratulate Your Excellency, Dr. Augustine Mahiga, Minister of Constitutional and Legal Affairs of the United Republic of Tanzania, on your election as President of this annual session, and I'm fully confident that in your able and wise leadership, which will surely lead us to a very fruitful and constructive discussion this whole week. My delegation also wishes to congratulate His Excellency Professor Muhammad Saladeh, Minister of Justice of the State of Palestine, for his election as Vice President, and look forward to his capable stewardship. My special appreciation goes to His Excellency Dr. Kennedy Castron, Secretary General of Aalco, and his diligent staff for the efficient and smooth preparation and operation of this session. Last but not least, I would like to convey the Korean delegation's warm congratulations on the readmission of the Philippines to this unique intercontinental legal advisory body, which my delegation views will help us to encourage non-member states belonging to our two continentals to join us soon in the future. Mr. President and distinguished delegates, for the last over 60 years, Aalco has made dedicated efforts for the development of the international legal system by balancing and enriching it with creative ideas that are drawn from the rich legal traditions of Asian and African people. My government recognizes that Aalco has contributed greatly to the formation of a new legal order in various fields of international law. For example, Aalco has introduced such innovative concept as exclusive economic zone and burden sharing, to name a few, and its mother instruments have reflected the strong and unified legal voice of Asian and African regions in international law matters. In the face of such daunting borderless challenges as climate change, human rights violations, and growing risks of cybercrime, multilateralism, the rule-based international order, and the rule of law and play an essential role in enhancing the stability and predictability of international relations. At the same time, to ensure universal compliance with the international law and contribute to its timely development, constructive dialogue among all state and non-state stakeholders of the international community is a matter of utmost importance. In this regard, active participation and dialogue within Aalco is essential and therefore should be sustained and even further promoted. Mr. President and distinguished delegates, I would like to go over briefly some general ideas and the Korean government efforts to enhance multilateralism and the international legal order based progressive development of international law. It is important for us to remember the international law is formed by consent and practices of states. Therefore, it is imperative that each state actively provides its input, especially on the deliberations of the International Law Commission. My delegation hopes that Aalco will more actively participate, exchange of views on international lawmaking, including all those topics of ILC. The intention here is not to duplicate the UNGA Legal Committee, but rather to assist each other in sharing opinions based on regional perspectives. In this sense, my delegation would also like to see some more interactive communication among the state officials and experts of our regions in the field of international law. In addition to intergovernmental settings such as this annual session, we needed to encourage subsidiary seminars and gatherings of experts at domestic and regional levels. For example, the Republic of Korea has been holding an annual joint conference with the International Tribunal for the Law of Sea on various issues concerning the law of sea since 2018. My delegation welcomes the participation of state officials and experts from Aalco in that joint conference. Second, we also need to pay more attention to the dissemination of international law at domestic level. My government, in close cooperation with academia, has been making active efforts to enhance Korean people's awareness and knowledge of international law. We have been hosting a mock court competition in public international law, as well as annual thesis competition for students. And we have organized seminars and symposiums on topics of international concern. Last year, we successfully convened a series of town hall meetings with students and members of the local community. My delegation is willing to share the information on our outreach program and initiatives with the Secretariat, other interested members. My delegation also wished to explore joint endeavors with the Secretariat to raise awareness of international law. In concluding, my delegation would like to remind all of you that this annual meeting of Aalco offers a valuable opportunity to meet together, share our common interests, and face legal challenges hand in hand. Therefore, I sincerely hope that under the able and wise leadership of Your Excellency Dr. Augustine Mahiga, this session will lead us to actively, constructively exchange our views and practices on outstanding international legal issues and to narrow them down into Aalco's consensual positions that will be effectively delivered to ILC, UNGA Legal Committee, and other relevant fora as a joint constructive contribution by His Excellency Dr. Kennedy Gastron and the Secretariat of the Aalco in the future. As a staunch advocate of the activities of Aalco since its membership in 1970, the Republic of Korea will contribute to this august body in this regard. Thank you for your kind attention, Mr. President.
Thank you very much indeed for your kind words and for the role of the Republic of Korea in capacity building to facilitate the work of Aalco, and thank you for your generous donation to the organization. The next speaker in my list is Vietnam.
Honorable President, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen. At the outset, on behalf of the delegation of Vietnam, I would like to warmly congratulate Mr. President and Mr. Vice President. I'm confident that under their able leadership and guidance, our conference will be a success. Mr. President, for the past 75 years, multilateralism has become indispensable, providing the forum for states to deliberate and establish common policies in different aspects of global governance and enhancing international law. Multilateralism and international law have since been intertwined, and one could not be achieved if foregoing the other. International law is a foundation of equal relations among states, the key to multilateralism. And the UN Charter is undoubtedly the symbol of successful cooperation among states to build a rules-based order, and at the same time, the cornerstone of our modern system of international law. In order to maintain international peace and security, states affirm such fundamental principles in international relations as respect for sovereignty of state, prohibition of the threat or use of force, peaceful settlement of international disputes, and the like. This instrument has evidently been playing a key role in shaping the international relations as we see today. Thanks to multilateral attempts, other significant instruments that reflect the determination of the international community towards sustainable peace and security have been adopted, notably the Declaration on Principles of International Law Concerning Friendly Relations and Cooperation Among States, 1970, and the Manila Declaration on the Peaceful Settlement of International Dispute, 1982, through which the general principles of international law are affirmed as foundation for international relations. Also, multilateralism, heavily influenced by the United Nations, has led to the adoption of many important treaties with a larger state participation, specifically the 4 Geneva Conventions on International Humanitarian Law, the Vienna Convention on the Law of Treaties, 1969, the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, 1982. Nevertheless, multilateralism, as well as the international legal order, is now facing undoubtable challenges. Recent years have witnessed alarming violations of international law on different levels and in different aspects, notably the use of force in compliance with the UN Charter, breaches of international humanitarian law in armed conflict. Meanwhile, unconventional issues that never cease arising need to be addressed as soon and effective as possible, while states' perspectives still remain divided. One such matter is regulating of cyberspace, which we are going to discuss in a few days to come. In such context, Vietnam acknowledges and emphasizes the significance of multilateralism with the central role of United Nations strongly upholds the principle of international law set forth in the UN Charter, and constantly reaffirms the importance of sovereignty, territorial integrity, and peaceful means of dispute settlement. In the face of arising challenges, peaceful settlements of international dispute should be emphasized more than ever. The UN Charter, as well as other multilateral treaties, such as the UNCLOS, has stipulated various dispute settlement mechanisms. The importance of these mechanisms and of the compliance with their decision in good faith is hereby underlined. Vietnam is of the view that UNCLOS as a constitution for the oceans shall be the sole foundation for making maritime claims. In exercising its rights, a coastal state shall give due regard to legitimate rights and interests of other states pursuant to the convention. Parties to maritime dispute shall exercise self-restraint in conduct of unilateral and coercive acts which might complicate the situation and escalate tension, threatening the reasoning and international peace and security. Mr. President, for the past decades, Vietnam has become member to significant organizations and to various treaties. Furthermore, Vietnam has made important steps towards active participation in the codification and progressive development of international law. In December 2018, Vietnam has officially become member of the United Nations Commission on International Trade Law, the UNCITRAL, for the term 2019-2025. And in 2019, Vietnam has been elected as a non-permanent member to the Security Council for the term 2020-2021. This is an opportunity for Vietnam to further emphasize the importance of multilateralism, including Aalco. On the regional level, Vietnam has proved its commitment to multilateralism and international legal order by actively taking part in the process of settling disputes in the South China Sea, including the multilateral attempts to effectively implement the Declaration of Conduct in its entirety, and to negotiate an effective and substantive code of conduct consistent with the UNCLOS. Last but not least, this delegation has carefully considered the report of the Secretary General, Professor Dr. Kennedy Gaston, on the work of the organization. We commend Professor Dr. Gaston's efforts and organization's proactive engagement with its member states and entities, as well as emerging issues of international law, as illustrated in the various successful activities as mentioned in the report. In this regard, we would like to pledge in the record our support for the organization's work plan for 2020-2021. My delegation also would like to express sincere thanks to Tanzania as a host country for the hospitality and arrangement for the present annual session. In conclusion, my delegation reaffirms that Vietnam recognizes that the international legal order is essential for achieving and maintaining peace and security, and will further contribute to the codification and progressive development of international law as an active member of Aalco, as well as upholding and promoting multilateralism as a member of the United Nations Security Council. I thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you very much, Vietnam, for your emphasis on rule-based order and multilateralism. We wish you all the best for your aspirations to be a member of the Security Council. The next speaker in my list is Egypt.
Good morning. Assalamu alaikum. السيد الرئيس، السيدات والسادة رؤساء وأعضاء الوفود الموقرة، حضرات السيدات والسادة الحضور. أود في البداية أن أتقدم بخالص التهنئة لمعالي الدكتور أوغسtin ماهيجا، وزير الشؤون القانونية والدستورية بجمهورية تنزانيا المتحدة الشقيقة على انتخابه رئيسا للدورة الحالية متمثلا.
I also extend to Dr. Muhammad Shalalda, Minister of Justice, State of Palestine, for his election Vice President of this present session. I should also extend my sincere thanks and gratitude to Republic of Tanzania for its wonderful hospitality and hosting, and to Japan for chairing the previous session. We also thank Secretariat of Aalco and Secretary General Dr. Kennedy Gaston for his excellent efforts and constructive work and excellent preparation for this session. We also congratulate
تواجد هنا اليوم لرئاسة وفد بلادي وحضور فعاليات الدورة الثامنة والخمسون لهذه المنظمة الموقرة، والتي تمثل أهمية كبيرة لمصر منذ نشأتها في عام 1956. الأمر الذي يتبدى جليا في كون مصر واحدة من الدول الثمانية المؤسسة للمنظمة، وهو ما ينبع من إيمان مصر الكامل بمحورية دورها ونبل رسالتها كإطار هام يساعد الدول الأعضاء في كافة المساعي المبذولة والرامية إلى تعزيز سيادة القانون وتطوير آليات ونظم عمل القانون الدولي في مختلف المجالات وعلى مختلف الأصعدة. واتصالا بذلك فلكم أن تتأكدوا فيما يتعلق بشعار الدورة الحالية، ألا وهو التعددية والنظام الدولي على أساس القانون الدولي، فإنه من الضرورة بمكان التأكيد على أن التعاون على الساحة الدولية هو الأساس الذي يستند عليه مبدأ التعددية، وهو الحل الوحيد والأمثل لمواجهة التهديدات العابرة للحدود التي تواجه الدول. والتعددية هنا تعني التعاون بين الدول في إطار جماعي وعدم فرض قيم ومفاهيم معينة على الآخرين، بل تستلزم احترام المصالح والاختلافات الثقافية والحضارية. إن المرحلة الراهنة التي يمر بها العالم أكدت الحاجة إلى تعزيز آليات التعاون بين الدول والتجمعات الدولية، بل واستحداث آليات جديدة تدفع نحو تنسيق السياسات الوطنية بما يكفل مواجهة التهديدات العابرة للحدود. فعلى الصعيد الأمني فهناك خطر الإرهاب، والذي لم يعد أي إقليم أو دولة بمعزل عنه، وبالتالي على الجميع أن يلتزم بالتصدي لهذا الخطر من خلال التزامه بنبذ العنف وعدم تقديم التمويل وعدم توفير ملاذ آمن للجماعات الإرهابية. وعلى الصعيد الاقتصادي فقد أكدت الأزمات المالية التي مر بها العالم في الأعوام الأخيرة على ضرورة التنسيق من أجل وضع أسس جديدة للتجارة العالمية واستثمارات الشركات متعددة الجنسيات بحيث تضمن مواجهة التلاعب المالي والفساد. وعلى الصعيد الثقافي فإن التعددية تعني احترام التنوع الثقافي وعدم فرض قيم ثقافية معينة على الجميع. ولعله من المؤسف ما تشهده الفترة الحالية من انتهاكات.
It is unfortunate that the current time has been witnessing violations of international law and international humanitarian law and non-respect of its principles, especially in some of the regions of the world that are facing disputes, armed disputes and conflicts for over a long time without any solution. And perhaps this is the reason for, direct reason for that we are still unable to contain the armed conflicts and find solution to the problem or to the risk, to the danger of terrorism and this nuclear disarmament, and also treating the reasons of the deficit in the global economic regime. And this has led to a gap between the developing and the developed world. Mr. President, the respect of multilateralism requires us to push the economic mechanisms of work, multilateral work at international level. And therefore, the significance of talking about reforming the UN body in a way that it keeps abreast with the requirements of the time. That requires us to strengthen our multilateral work at the international level and also strengthen the role of regional organizations in matters relating to coordination among members on matters of international peace and security and economic integration. In this connection, one of the most important issues which may concern international community at present is the strengthening of the role of international law in preventing disputes and conflicts and in achieving international peace and security and development. Facing these challenges and taking on these challenges faced by the world, in addition to the significance of supporting cooperation, multilateral cooperation, and facing unilateral policies and violation of international commitments. And indeed, Aalco has an important role to play in strengthening cooperation, multilateral cooperation, and respect of international legitimacy. I would like to emphasize here the role of Egypt, the firm role of Egypt in respect of regarding the respect of responsible international law and rule of law and non-interference in the internal matters of other countries, because we believe that this is the only way for finding peaceful and sustainable solutions for disputes and conflicts in many parts of the world. Egypt, as many of the other countries of the world, has an interest in commitment to the rules of international law to live in a global just order. Mr. President, the Institute of United Nations witnesses the important role played by Egypt in the establishment of global regime and formulation of its charter in San Francisco Conference and its continuous defense of the issues of the developing countries based on the rules of international law and in compliance with and the principles of its charters and objectives. Egypt has also supported the efforts of developing countries in developing international law in line with its interests. It has succeeded. These countries have succeeded in establishing the legal concepts as a right to development, right to self-determination, sovereignty of a state over its resources, and the common heritage of the humanity. Egypt has also been playing a very significant role in strengthening legal cooperation among Asian and African countries and coordinating its positions in the sphere of international law by active participation in the activities and sessions of Aalco, which aim to develop rules of international law, which has contributed in strengthening the common efforts of Aalco member states and their proposals in strengthening the important aspects of the law of conventions, the law of the sea, and international humanitarian law, international criminal law, and the environment protection law. And indeed, the present session of the organization, by discussing some of the important issues related to the implementation of national legislations and international cyber law and law of the seas and violation of international law in Palestine and the land occupied by Israel and other such legal issues related to Palestine and the law of trade and national investments and peaceful settlements are very important. Mr. President, at the end, I must not miss to point out that there is a responsibility on the shoulders of all the members, that is to respect the principles of international law and abiding by it, whether they are related to international peace and security or related to the rules of international humanitarian law during the armed conflicts. Egypt has been in this respect calling upon international community to put in more efforts so that more countries are joining the international multilateral injections in order to create new mechanisms and to frame new model unified rules to be guided by the member states. And I wish that this session all success. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Egypt, as a founding member, for your strong messages on international rule-based law and peace and security and multilateralism. The next speaker in my list is Indonesia.
Mr. President, Honorable Kennedy, Mr. Kennedy Custom, Secretary General of Aalco, Excellencies, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen. At the outset, my delegation would like to congratulate you, Excellency, Dr. Agustin Mahiga, Minister for Constitutional and Legal Affairs, responsible for Aalco, and His Excellency Professor Muhammad Salaldeh, Minister of Justice of the State of Palestine, for your elections respectively as President and Vice President of the 58 sessions of Aalco. Your wise and able leadership, I believe, will lead our deliberations to productive and successful outcomes. We would like also to express our gratitude and high appreciation to His Excellency Ambassador Koji Haneda of Japan for his excellent leadership during the 57th Aalco meeting. Let me take this opportunity also to convey my delegation's sincere gratitude and appreciation to the government and people of Tanzania for hosting this meeting, their warm welcome and generous hospitality. High appreciation also goes to Aalco Secretariat and the organizing committee of Tanzania for their hard work in preparing and organizing this meeting. My delegation expresses its gratitude and appreciation to the Secretary General, Honorable Kennedy Gaston, for his comprehensive and important report on the work of Aalco. We believe in the relevance and strategic importance Aalco could play in strengthening friendship, solidarity, cooperation, particularly in international law setting to achieve good global governance and rule of international law. These noble goals reflect the manifestation of Bandung Spirit 1955. My delegation welcomes the Philippines, our brother in ASEAN, for rejoining as the 49 Aalco member states, and hope more and more states could join this important organization to advance the voices and aspirations of Asia, Africa in achieving just, inclusive, and good global governance. Mr. President, Excellencies, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, I have taken note that substantive matters under the agenda of our sessions this year are very relevant and important in addressing the various and dynamic challenges of our world today. My delegation will make intervention on different issues when we come to each agenda item later. However, at this opportunity, my delegation would like to comment on some important issues of our main concern. As an archipelagic state, Indonesia has been taking various efforts to stay on the line with the mandate of the United Nations Conventions on the Law of the Sea 1982 that has been widely adopted as international law. In this juncture, at the national level, our efforts are focused on developing maritime and human resources, maritime security, maritime law, and safety enforcement, strengthening maritime governance and institution, developing maritime economy, maritime special management and protection, developing maritime culture and maritime diplomacy. Those efforts show Indonesia's commitment in supporting the manifestation of law and global order, as well as 3 United Nations pillars that is peace, development, and human rights. Indonesia attaches great importance on preventing and combating illegal, unreported, and undocumented fishing, which threatens the fisheries sector that become the livelihood of millions of people in the world. Former United Nations Secretary General, Mr. Kofi Annan, once stated that IUU fishing was one of the most severe problems affecting world fisheries. It was revealed that the global fishing industry not only drew more than 80 billion in fisheries revenue, but also more than 240 billion are generated for the global economy. Every year it is estimated that 26 million metric tons fish worth 23.5 million US dollars are lost due to IUU fishing. We note that international communities increasingly pay serious attention on addressing the IUU fishing. The issue of IUU fishing has become an important agenda in Asia, in East Asian community, in ASEAN Regional Forum, United Nations Oceans Conference, our World Ocean Conference, World Ocean Summit, UN Congress on Crime Prevention and Criminal Justice, G20, APEC, AU, and etc. Some global networks have been established to support global action, such as Friends of Ocean Actions, Friends of Fisheries, High-Level Panel for Sustainable Ocean Economy, Fisheries Transparency Initiative. There are a number of important initiatives or instruments that have been taken in various regions and forums. Aalco should not be left out in this important and strategic endeavor. Aalco needs to take important role in global efforts to achieve sustainable and responsible fisheries management, safeguarding the environment, food security, and sustainable development. We express our appreciation and gratitude to Honorable Secretary General and all heads of delegations, which during the head of delegations meeting on 20 October approved the annotated agenda with the inclusion of Indonesian proposed new agenda item concerning preventing and combating IUU fishing to be discussed at this 58th session. Mr. President, Excellencies, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, on the issue of Palestine, Indonesia consistently is of the view that Palestinian people have the right to legitimate struggle for their self-determination and independence. Indonesia steadfastly supports the struggle of Palestine in their self-determination and ultimately their independence based on two-state solution with 1967 borders, including East Jerusalem as Palestine's capital. Indonesia consistently expresses its view in various international assemblies, especially during Indonesia's non-permanent membership of the United Nations Security Council for the period of 2019 and 2020. On combating transnational organized crime that affects the security and sovereignty of each country, Indonesia strongly supports the enforcement of international law in cyberspace. Indonesia focuses its concerns on the following topics: international cooperation in combating crime in cyberspace, international law in cyberspace, challenges that consist of the matters on non-interference principle in cyberspace, data sovereignty and transborder data flow, and data security, filtering malicious online content, and the safety usage of cyberspace. Indonesia supports positive steps for peaceful dispute settlement. Peaceful dispute settlements, we believe, will contribute to the stability of our region and in global scope, as well as encourages better legal order, transcending numerous issues. Indonesia is one of the countries that prioritizes peaceful settlement of disputes. This is shown with numerous practices that Indonesia has gone through settling disputes in a peaceful manner, such as the case of Sipadan Ligitan and a number of cases under the WTO. Mr. President, distinguished delegates, this year on 2 until 6 November in Jakarta, Indonesia will start to embark the joint capacity building and training between the Ministry of Law and Human Rights of the Republic of Indonesia and the Ministry of Justice of Lao People's Democratic Republic. The joint capacity building and training is focused on enhancing the capacity of officials in law enforcement agencies and Ministry of Justice, particularly the Central Authority, on mutual legal assistance in criminal matters, extradition, and legal cooperation. The program is expected could facilitate exchange of experience and best practices, among others in international arbitration, mutual legal assistance in assets tracing and recovery, collecting evidence for investigating, prosecuting, and judicial proceedings in the requested country, as well as cooperation in combating transnational organized crimes. We would be more than happy if this cooperation could be developed and expanded in cooperation with Aalco to cover many other ASEAN African countries next year and in the future. In conclusion, Mr. President, with the spirit of friendship, solidarity, the fulfilling and sincere cooperation, I believe Aalco could maintain its relevance and strategic importance in addressing global challenges to achieve good global governance through improving or strengthening international law that reflect existing dynamics and realities. This annual session is timely to renew our commitment for strengthening cooperation and work together towards a harmonized law among states of ASEAN and African regions. I hope we could have a fruitful deliberation and a successful outcome in our meeting this year. I thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Indonesia, a founding member of Aalco, for reminding us the Bandung spirit and how it underlies the current cooperation and the strategic importance of Aalco. Thank you for highlighting the maritime blue economy, especially in the area of fishing, and of course, the issue of Palestine, upon whom I now call the delegation of Palestine to speak.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. معالي السيد أوغستين ماهيغا رئيس المنظمة الاستشارية القانونية الآسيوية الأفريقية، سعادة البروفيسور كينيدي غاستون الأمين العام للمنظمة الاستشارية القانونية الآسيوية الأفريقية آلكو، أصحاب المعالي والعطوفة والسعادة، ممثلي الدول المشاركة في أعمال هذه الدورة، الحضور الكريم، السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. أرحب بكم أجمل ترحيب، وأتمنى لهذا اللقاء القانوني الخروج بمجموعة من التوصيات تنتقل إلى الآليات القانونية والقضائية لمساءلة أشخاص القانون الدولي في حال انتهاكهم لمبادئ وقواعد القانون الدولي والقانون الدولي الإنساني وحقوق الإنسان. الحضور الكريم، أكرر شكري العميق وامتناني لكم جميعا على انتخاب دولة فلسطين نائبا لرئيس هذه المنظمة في هذه الدورة. وهذا الانتخاب أعتبره تكريما لتكريس وترسيخ مبادئ القانون الدولي، لأن فلسطين منذ عام 1947 صدرت العديد من القرارات من الجمعية العامة ومجلس الأمن، وحتى الآن لم ينفذ أي قرار من هذه القرارات بخصوص القضية الفلسطينية. إذن ما هو موقف القانون الدولي من حركات التحرر وحق تقرير المصير للشعوب بشكل عام والفلسطينيين بشكل خاص؟ وإنه لا يشرفني أن أشارككم اليوم أعمال هذه الدورة، ولكن اسمحوا لي ابتداء أن أنقل إليكم تحيات فخامة الرئيس محمود عباس ودولة رئيس الوزراء الدكتور محمد شتية، والشكر الجزيل من جمهورية تنزانيا على مواقفها التاريخية الداعمة للقضية الفلسطينية. فطبيعة العلاقة التي تربط فلسطين بتنزانيا هي علاقات تاريخية تأسست على يد مؤسس الدولة التنزانية جوليوس نيريري والرئيس الراحل ياسر عرفات. فمنذ عام 1976 تقدمت تنزانيا ومجموعة من الدول باكستان وبنما ورومانيا بقرار لمجلس الأمن الدولي ينص على حق الشعب الفلسطيني في ممارسة حق تقرير المصير وفي إقامة دولة مستقلة وفقا لميثاق الأمم المتحدة، وضرورة انسحاب إسرائيل من الأراضي المحتلة عام 1967، ويدين إقامة المستوطنات اليهودية في الأراضي المحتلة. إلا أن هذا القرار جوبه كالعادة بالفيتو الأمريكي، وحتى اللحظة ما زالت تنزانيا وغيرها من الدول الحرة التي تمثلونها تدافع عن القضية الفلسطينية في أروقة الأمم المتحدة التي أنشئت لتدافع عن حق تقرير المصير للشعوب وحريتهم ونضالهم ضد الاستعمار وضد الاحتلال. ولا يفوتني في هذا المقام التوجه بعميق الشكر والامتنان للمنظمة الاستشارية القانونية الآسيوية الأفريقية، هذه المنظمة التي آمنت بأن القانون الدولي ولا غيره هو السبيل الوحيد لحل المنازعات الدولية، وبأنه الضامن للحقوق والحريات. كيف لا وقد أفردت هذه الدورة بندا خاصا لقضية
is entitled Violations of International Law in Palestine and Other Territories Occupied by Israel and the Legal Status of Jerusalem. Distinguished guests, the gross and flagrant violations that are happening now in Palestine territories and committed by the Israeli occupying forces, the Israeli government and the settlers and they are committing, and they constitute a flagrant violation of the rules of international law and international humanitarian law, given Israel's attempts to impose its policy contrary to international law. These violations are ongoing since the beginning of the occupation, but we highlight the most important political field and security developments during the first of 2019.
كما وصلت دولة الاحتلال الإسرائيلي من خلال قضائها شرعنة البؤر الاستيطانية العشوائية المقامة على أراضٍ
The issue of Khan al-Khamr remains vigorously present, and the declaration of the occupying power and the decision to demolish and deport Khan al-Khamr are still wide open. The demolition and deportation of the entire area is part of a colonial strategic plan that the occupying state seeks to implement for the displacement of the whole area called C and control of Jerusalem and the division of the West Bank. Continued frantic settlement expansion accompanied by calls for annexation and the imposition of Israeli sovereignty. The Israeli occupation state continued through its colonial arms to confiscate large scale of Palestinian lands under various pretexts and excuses, especially its use for military purposes. The Israeli occupation state also continued through its judiciary to legitimize random illegal outposts built on private Palestinian lands. Calls for annexation and the imposition of Israeli sovereignty on the West Bank continued during the first half of 2019 through repeated calls by many leaders of the occupation, including politicians, ministers, heads of states, and members of Knesset, who called through various media outlets on many occasions and forums to impose the Israeli sovereignty on the settlement blocks in the occupied Palestinian territories or on the whole area called C or the West Bank. As described or propagated through media leaks, it is the final agreement based on a proposal put forward by US President Donald Trump to end the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. But on the ground, it is a deal or a slap of the century, as described by some. It is unclear in form and content and remains rejected and suspicious.
يواصل جيش الاحتلال الإسرائيلي سياسة العقاب الجماعي ضد المواطنين الفلسطينيين في كثير من المدن.
The Israeli occupation army continuing the policy of collective punishment against the Palestinian people in many of the cities and villages and groupings. The destruction of the houses as a punishment is one of the most extremist and means used by Israel in West Bank, including Eastern Jerusalem. The occupation forces since the last few years has demolished 116 apartments in 15 buildings in Wadi al-Hams in east of occupied Jerusalem by distinguished delegates. This is a small part of what the Israeli occupation forces are doing, and we will give you the details of the violations when we discuss this special item on our agenda of this conference. We hope that this session, with your presence and your active participation, will form a legal basis on which we can build on strengthening the position of international law and its role in solving international disputes with the force of law, not the force of power. And
هذا جزء بسيط مما يقوم به الاحتلال الإسرائيلي وسوف نخوض بتفاصيل انتهاكاته لدى مناقشتنا معكم للبند المطروح في جدول هذا المؤتمر. وإننا نأمل
we hope that this session and in your august presence and with your active participation will form a legal basis on which we can build for enhancing the place of international law and its role in solving international disputes with the force of law, not with the force of power, and in all forms of racial segregation and discrimination and all forms of aggression, and ending occupation in all its forms, and implementation of the rules of international law, humanitarian law, and international conventions on all people without. And we welcome joining of Republic of Philippines to this organization, evaluating the role it has been playing. This organization has been playing by preparing legal studies on the status of Jerusalem in international law in Arabic and English. We thank representatives of the countries who have spoken before me. All of them reiterated their positions supporting and their unwavering support for Palestinian cause and the right of the Palestinian people to self-determination and establishment independent Palestinian states on the borders of 4th of June 1967 and Jerusalem being its capital. We reiterate therefore United Nations should own legal responsibility and moral responsibility for protecting peace and international security in Palestine. We are, as Palestinian people, we demand implementation of resolution of international legitimacy for Palestinian cause. Therefore, this double standard in UN resolutions, which are not being implemented since 1947 until today, they are continuing.
السادس لماذا لم تستند إلى الفصل السابع
why the seventh chapter of the resolution was not implemented which reiterated the withdrawal of Israeli forces. We demand that we have to review the commitment of the countries and their respect for international conventions
مبادئ القانون الدولي
and treaties.
والمعاهدات الدولية وهنا لابد من الإشارة
We must point out that
الدولة أو تلك
any country who is violating any of the conventions,
تنعقد المسؤولية الدولية
therefore we have to hold them responsible
من قبل لجان المعاهدات الدولية
by international committees or UN agencies in this regard.
ومن هنا كذلك أؤكد
We also reaffirm
قبلت في الأمم المتحدة
Palestine has been admitted as a permanent member of,
اعتراف بها بأكثر
should be admitted as a permanent member of
هذه الدولة لم
in the United Nations.
بأن تنضم إلى ميثاق الأمم
I'm going,
دائمة العضوية
why Palestine has not been admitted permanently, even though majority of the members,
بأنها شخص من أشخاص
they have reiterated and affirmed that Palestine has the right to be a permanent member.
منظمة
And I also call upon Aalco
تنتقل
to shift,
بأنها بما أنها هي منظمة استشارية
because it's a consultative organization.
تنتقل
I urge upon Aalco to shift from creating legal mechanisms, judicial mechanisms,
في حال خرقها
to a position where it is able to hold the countries who are violating international conventions and resolutions accountable and as in accordance with the principles of international law.
أنا أؤكد بأن
I would like to emphasize that Palestine is committed to holding international conference for peace,
دولة فلسطين
as has been said by the president of Palestine, based on the resolutions of international legitimacy, in order to resolve the Palestinian issue. And I want to say that this issue is very important. And I also point out, I want to say that United Nations has to be reformed, and also
سلطة تشريعية بتفعيل قرار الاتحاد من
that UNGA should be able to implement the resolution that it has been passing and the Security Council it has been passing. And this organization should be held responsible for the resolutions that have been taken, which are not being implemented on the ground, especially on the seventh chapter of the resolution.
193 دولة أعضاء في الجمعية العامة لماذا لم
169 members, countries are members of the United Nations.
والسلم في العالم في هذا الجانب
Why these countries are not forcing Israel to establish peace in this region and withdraw from the forces? From this forum, I call upon Aalco to establish a legal cell
الشؤون القانونية على المستوى
for legal affairs at regional, international, and also establish a center for specialized studies that would benefit the legal officers and researchers and scholars. And then I would like to emphasize that the rule of law
من الدول على المستوى الوطني وإنما
is not required at national level, but they have to be implemented at the international level.
أساس القانون الدولي باحترام مبادئ
That all countries must respect the principles of international law in a way that the countries who are violating these rules are held responsible and accountable. And thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Palestine, for this very powerful message on the future fate and rights of the Palestinian people. I hope Aalco will take this seriously to advance the cause for the Palestinians. The next speaker in my list is Turkey.
Honorable Minister, Ambassador Dr. Agustin Mahiga, the President of the 58th session of Aalco, Honorable Minister Mohammed Al Shalalde, the Vice President of the 58th session of Aalco, Honorable Secretary General Professor Kennedy Gaston, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to thank Honorable Minister Dr. Mahiga for giving me this opportunity to address you all. Since the head of delegation of Syrian regime misused this bogus platform to voice baseless claims and smears with regard to Turkey's involvement in Syria, I wish to clarify certain points. The Syrian crisis has already entered its 9th year. An adverse consequence of civil war, terrorist organizations have gained foothold in Syria, just in the neighborhood of Turkey. Daesh and YPG are the forefront of terrorist activities. YPG is the offshoot of PKK, which is designated as a terrorist organization by European Union and NATO. Now Turkey is currently fighting these organizations that represent risk and threat to our national security. Our resolve to fight against these terrorist organizations is firm. Daesh and PYD forcefully displaced local people, changed democratic structure, and even set called local administration. Because of civil war, Daesh and YPG, millions of people fled Syria. Turkey now hosts 4 million Syrians. Through tunnels dug by YPG along the bordering areas of Turkey and Syria, explosives and ammunition have been smuggled to Turkey to be handed over to the PKK terrorist organization in Turkey. The concrete tunnels are 60 kilometers long. 60 kilometers long. They are constructed 30 meters under the ground. The tunnels have the height of 3 meters and the width is 2.5 meters. USA gave ammunition to YPG under the pretext of fighting with Daesh. The ammunitions were brought by 30,000 long vehicles. It has no sense to use a terrorist organization, PYD, to fight with another terrorist organization, Daesh. Their main secret objective is the partition of Syria. YPG occupied 27% of Syria now. In fact, Turkey has an active member of the global coalition against Daesh since its inception. Turkey fought against Daesh in Syria more than any other country and paid the heaviest price. Turkey was the only country engaging in chest-to-chest combat against Daesh terrorists in Syria. Turkey successfully conducted 2 major operations, namely Euphrates Shield in 2017 and Operation Olive Branch in 2018. Turkey cleared an area over 4,000 square meter area from Daesh and PYD terror, allowing more than 360,000 Syrians to return their homes in this area. During these operations, more than 3,000 Daesh terrorists were killed. Moreover, the threat of terrorism originating from Syria and targeting our borders has not yet ended. Over the last 2 years, PYD-YPG, the Syrian offshoot of PKK, terrorist organization, has perpetrated more than 300 terrorist attacks targeting Turkey or Syrians within Syria. Over 100 of these cases targeted Turkey from the east of River Euphrates. There has been growing evidence about PYD-YPG's human rights violations, such as recruiting child soldiers, intimidating dissidents, demographic engineering, and forced conscription in areas under its control. Local populations' grievances against PYD-YPG's tyrannical rule has been on constant rise. Our expectations and sensitivities regarding the PYD and YPG threat have repeatedly brought to the attention of all our allies, beginning with those who have military and civilian presence in the east of Euphrates, especially the United States. Through all contexts, we emphasize that, if necessary, we would not hesitate to use our right of self-defense stemming from international law. We reiterated that Turkey should not be expected to tolerate the presence of terrorists all its borders. The presence of terrorist groups pursuing separatist agendas also threatens the territorial integrity and unity of Syria. Turkey was compelled to take action in order to correct the grave mistakes of allied and partner countries in Syria. Against this backdrop, Turkish armed forces launched Operation Peace Spring on 9th October 2019 with the support of Syrian National Army, the united armed branch of the Syrian opposition. Turkey wants to establish a safe zone from terrorists in the northeastern Syria along the Turkish-Syrian border. The objectives of Operation Peace Spring are clear. First, to eliminate a long-standing terror threat against Turkey's national security by establishing a safe zone. Second, to enforce Syria's territorial integrity and unity. Third, to liberate the local population from PYD-YPG's oppression. And fourth, to lay the ground for safe and voluntary returns of displaced Syrians. The operation will also provide the opportunity for at least 2 million people, displaced Syrians, including Kurds, Arabs and Christians, to return to their ancestors' land after having been subject to ethnic cleansing by PYD-YPG. The return will be in line with international law and in coordination with the relevant United Nations agencies. The operation was launched on the basis of international law in accordance with our right of self-defense as outlined in Article 51 of the United Nations Charter and the relevant Security Council resolutions, and in full respect of Syria's territorial integrity and unity. As was the case with Operations Euphrates Shield and Olive Branch, only terrorist elements and their hideouts, shelters, emplacements, weapons, vehicles, and equipments have been targeted during the planning and the execution phases of the operation. We intend to continue the operation until all terrorists have been wiped out of the region. Our border security has been ensured and local Syrians have been liberated from the tyranny of PYD-YPG as well as the Daesh threat. I want to underline that Turkey is not targeting Kurds. This could clearly be understood by the fact that more than 360,000 Syrians of Kurdish origins fled from YPG terror and sought shelter in Turkey. Preservation of the territorial integrity and political unity of Syria is essential for Turkey. Certain countries which explicitly or implicitly support the separatist agenda of PYD-YPG terrorist organizations are making baseless accusations against Turkey on this matter. There is an outcry in European countries and in the United States because it was not expected that Turkey could be successful against heavily armored PYD-YPG in a very short time. Within 1 week, we can suppress all the YPG. This is a manifestation of their frustration for the disruption of their plans to divide Syria. The allegation that Operation Peace Spring would damage efforts to reach a political solution in Syria is far from reality. Turkey is one of the few countries that exerted maximum and genuine efforts to establish the Constitutional Committee in close cooperation with other Astana guarantors and United Nations. Our main expectation from the international community, particularly from our allies, is to support our fight against terrorism. In this context, with the joint statement of Turkey and the United States, Turkey's legitimate security concerns on its borders are acknowledged. Turkey has paused Operation Peace Spring in order to allow the withdrawal of YPG from the safe zone within 120 hours. This will finish today, 22nd October. In the joint statement, both countries have reiterated their pledge to uphold human life, human rights, and the protection of religious ethnic communities. Turkey and the United States are committed to ending ISIS-Daesh activities in northeast Syria. This will include coordination on detention facilities and internally displaced persons from formerly ISIS-Daesh controlled areas as appropriate. Turkey and the United States agree that counter-terrorism operations must target only terrorists and their hideouts, shelters, emplacements, weapons, vehicles, and equipment. Both countries reiterate their commitment to the political unity and territorial integrity of Syria and United Nations-led political process, which aims at ending the Syrian conflict in accordance with the United Nations Security Council Resolution 2254. Two sides agreed on the continued importance and functionality of a safe zone in order to address the national security concerns of Turkey, to include the recollection of YPG heavy weapons and the disablement of their fortifications and all other fighting positions. Turkey will continue to firmly counter all kinds of terrorist organizations. And yesterday, 21st October, Chargé d'Affaires of Syrian regime wrongfully used the word bloody to describe Turkey's involvement in Syria. I recommend her to look upon the crimes committed by the regime she represents, which include the use of chemical weapons and barrel bombs against its own population. Around 1 million innocent civilians lost their lives due to that regime's disregard of civilian lives. More than 5.5 million people are displaced. 4 million of people whom are under temporary protection in Turkey. The Syrian representatives should be grateful because Turkey has prevented the partition of Syria. Esteemed President, I would like to thank you for giving me the floor. I wish that 58th session of Aalco will reach its objectives. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for this update on the situation in Syria and the involvement of Turkey in northern Syria. The next speaker on our list is Ghana, please.
Good morning. Your Excellency, Mr. President, as the only delegate from Ghana, let me first of all congratulate you and your vice for your election to the high office of President and Vice President of this great organization. May the Almighty Allah, the most gracious, the most merciful, guide you in the performance of your duties to our beloved organization. Mr. President, in my country, Ghana, instead of acknowledging the presence of all dignitaries and invited guests present at a meeting when delivering a speech within time constraints, we mention only the most important dignitaries at the high table and add the phrase, quote and unquote, all protocols observed, to indicate the acknowledgement of all present at the meeting. This is to avoid time wasting on acknowledgements alone. We learned this practice from our big brother Nigeria, and we saw that it was good. I will therefore adopt this practice here. So our esteemed President and Vice of the 58th annual session of Aalco, Your Excellency, the indefatigable Secretary General of Aalco, all protocols observed. I deem it a great honor to be part of this beautiful gathering in the beautiful commercial city of Dar es Salaam, which literally means house of peace, and which until recently served as the administrative capital of this great historical nation of the United Republic of Tanzania. I begin by conveying to you fraternal greetings and felicitations from the government and people of the land of gold, which is Ghana, which used to be called Gold Coast pre-independence by the colonialists because of its richness in gold. My statement this morning is more of a solidarity message in support of the good works or activities of this great organization, Aalco. I have to be candid that until the Chief Justice of my country delegated me to represent her at this conference, I knew very little about the activities of Aalco, notwithstanding the fact that my country is a member state. However, having read the report of our youthful and versatile Secretary General and other materials presented to me upon registration and arrival on Sunday 20th, I've come to realize the important role this organization has played and is still playing in the promotion of multilateralism and international legal order based on international law, with the main agenda objective of protecting the interests of Asian and African countries in their commercial and economic deliberations with the economic and military giants of the West. I don't know or cannot tell what would have been the fate of most of our member states if this organization, which is the progenitor of the non-aligned movement, had not been established or formed. On behalf of my country, Ghana, I give kudos to the founding fathers of this indispensable organization for their great dream. One of the greatest achievements of this organization is the establishment of arbitration centers in our two regions. That's 2 in Asia and 3 in Africa currently, for the settlement of economic and commercial disputes among member states to minimize the flow of arbitration cases to arbitral institutions outside our two regions. I pray that more of such centers will be established to handle the numerous case laws involving member countries, particularly to avoid the hegemony of the West over our seemingly financially weak and fragile nations. Notwithstanding the fact that we have economic giants like China, Japan, South Korea, and the Gulf states in our fold. My country is solidly behind Aalco in all its dealings and efforts to promote a sound international legal order based on the rule of law as opposed to the rule of the mighty. To conclude, I wish, on behalf of my country, to congratulate the current executives, or in other words, the Secretariat of Aalco, for their great achievements in championing the cause of our two regions in the fight against impunity to ensure fairness and equity in our commercial and economic dealings with the powerful West. I assure you, Mr. Secretary General, that all the arrears of membership dues owed by my country, as indicated in the financial report or budget for the year 2020, would be settled sooner than later. On this note, I would use this opportunity to appeal passionately to all other member states who still owe arrears of dues to settle the arrears to help this great organization grow stronger and stronger. This will ensure that the organization has the wherewithal to carry on with its indispensable global activities. I thank you, Mr. Secretary General, for this opportunity to address this August gathering. Asante.
Good morning, everybody. Honorable Mr. President, Ambassador Dr. Agustin Mahiga, who is also the Minister for Constitutional and Legal Affairs in the United Republic of Tanzania, Honorable Professor Kennedy Gaston, the Secretary General of Aalco, and as Ghana said, all protocol observed. Allow me, Mr. President, to once again take this opportunity to welcome you all to the United Republic of Tanzania, and particularly to this beautiful city of Dar es Salaam, or the Harbor or House of Peace. It is an honor and great privilege for me and for the United Republic of Tanzania in particular to host yet another annual session of Aalco for the third time. The country did so in Arusha in 1986, and in 2010 we hosted Aalco annual meeting in Dar es Salaam. Let me also sincerely express my gratitude to the Secretary General of Aalco, Professor Kennedy Gaston, and the entire team at the Secretariat for their dedication to the work of this noble organization and in upholding the principles of togetherness, cooperation, and multilateralism in the international legal order that serves the interest of all players in the international law development arena. More so, I wish to commend members states for their endurance and commitment to support the work of Aalco in fostering the core values of this organization. It is my belief that we will continue to honor our obligations and make Aalco shine in the international law arena as it continues to represent our common interest. Mr. President, since joining Aalco in 1973, the United Republic of Tanzania has continued to uphold the principle of multilateralism and international legal order based on principles of international law, which continues to evolve for the benefit of humanity. The United Republic of Tanzania has played a significant role in implementing the core values of the United Nations Charter in promoting international peace and international good order, not only in our regions, but also beyond the regions. We remain, as the United Republic of Tanzania, committed to this principle as opposed to unilateralism, and we urge all member states of Aalco to embrace it in the promotion of cherished values of international rule of law, democracy, human and people's rights, as well as good governance, for strengthening peace and security, not only in Asia and Africa, but globally, in order to obtain the sustainable economic development that we cherish come 2030. Today, unfortunately, we are witnessing an emerging or growing trend towards unilateralism within the international system, which essentially is repugnant to the principle of good international rule of law and world order. The United Republic would like to reiterate its commitment to the international rule of law and international good order. The United Republic of Tanzania has continued to be the hub of peace and security in the region, and has always been part of international peacekeeping forces in the region and beyond, which demonstrates its commitment in maintenance of international order, international peace, and international security. It's in this context that, and in the spirit of solidarity, the government of the United Republic of Tanzania, through this forum, would like to urge international community to call an end to the unilateral sanctions imposed on the Republic of Zimbabwe. These sanctions are still in place on the pretext that they are targeted, but unfortunately we see these sanctions undermine the Republic of Zimbabwe's efforts in recovering from the economic crisis crippling development in that country. It is imperative that these sanctions are lifted to save the common people, including the elderly, women, and children who are affected or more vulnerable when it comes to issues related to poverty caused by, among other things, the economic sanctions imposed on that country. Importantly so, it should be noted that these sanctions do not only affect the people of the Republic of Zimbabwe and their government, but also neighboring states. The Republic of Zimbabwe, as is a sovereign state, has the right to self-determination and has the right to exercise its powers and freedom as enshrined under Article 2, Sub-Article 4 of the United Nations Charter. Together, let us make the Republic of Zimbabwe thrive economically, socially, and politically by causing the unilateral sanctions imposed on that country to come to an end. And that is the spirit for which Aalco was established. Distinguished participants, in conclusion, allow me to once again, and on behalf of the government of the United Republic of Tanzania, to reiterate our commitment to multilateralism and international rule of law and legal order for the benefit of humankind, for the benefit also of humanity. The United Republic of Tanzania will continue to render its unwavering support to the United Nations' ongoing reforms to make the organization more significant to the contemporary needs and challenges. Tanzania remains devoted to the work of Aalco, and it will continue to render its support to the Secretary General and the Secretariat as a whole as they continue to perform their duties and making this organization more effective. Mr. President, I thank you and asanteni sana.
Thank you very much, Permanent Secretary, for underscoring the need to give a platform to rescue multilateralism. And that is how Tanzania, by offering to host this meeting here, is inviting all of you to combine our resources and efforts to rescue multilateralism under international law. Now I call the speaker, who is the last speaker? Yeah, in the category of member states, Nigeria.
Good morning. Your Excellencies, President and Vice President of the 58th session of Aalco, distinguished Secretary General, distinguished delegates. On behalf of my delegation, let me convey the warm greetings of the government and good people of the Federal Republic of Nigeria to your Excellencies and to the Secretariat on the occasion of this successful convening of the 58th session of our organization in the beautiful and historic city of Dar es Salaam, United Republic of Tanzania. My delegation once more expresses its gratitude to the government and good people of Tanzania for hosting this session, for the warm hospitality accorded us since our arrival, and for the excellent facilities provided for this session. Mr. President, we congratulate you and His Excellency, Mr. Vice President, on your election. We are hopeful that your tenure will offer a fresh opportunity to consolidate on the current work of our organization. Mr. President, my delegation is pleased to observe that the agenda of this session has built on the ongoing work of the organization from the 57th session in Tokyo, Japan. The theme for the general statement, the substantive agenda items, particularly topics on the agenda on the International Law Commission, Law of the Sea, International Trade and Investment Laws, International Law in Cyberspace and Peaceful Settlement of Disputes affect our collective and individual interests and therefore deserve extensive deliberation in the interest of deepening African and Asian solidarity. Mr. President, since the 57th session was concluded in Tokyo, Japan in 2018, the government of the Federal Republic of Nigeria has continued to take steps to ensure that the ideals espoused by Aalco in respect of the rule of law are reflected in our domestic policies and practices. We believe particularly that the entrenchment and consolidation of a democratic order will place Nigeria in a strong position to remain a credible and responsible member of this organization and indeed of the international community. In international relations, multilateralism refers to an alliance of multiple countries pursuing a common goal. It's the process of organizing relations between groups of 3 or more states. Beyond that basic quantitative aspect, it is generally considered to comprise certain qualitative elements or principles that shape the character of the arrangement or institution. A united humanity will be able to confront the many troubling problems of the present, from the menace of terrorism to the humiliating poverty in which millions of human beings live, from the proliferation of weapons to the pandemics and the environmental destruction which threatens the future of our planet. Therefore, it is critical to end the false concept that multilateralism undermines the sovereignty of states, when in fact it bolsters sovereignty. Mr. President, my delegation wishes to observe that the world is increasingly polarized as extreme nationalism and multidimensional challenges increase, including climate change and terrorism that recognizes no borders. We wish to recall the legacy of multilateralism and the international agreements which have made the world a better place, from the Universal Declaration of Human Rights to 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. No country, however peaceful, can resolve global challenges alone. Mr. President, it is noteworthy to state that for nearly 75 years, multilateral arrangements have saved lives, expanded economic and social progress, upheld human rights, and helped prevent a third descent into global conflagration. Such cooperation cannot be taken for granted. Against the background of today's difficult circumstances, Aalco must recall the urgency felt by its founders and reinvigorate its tools. The principles of working together endure, but the specifics must take account of a rapidly changing world. It is not enough to proclaim the virtue of multilateralism. Its added value must be proven as well. Aalco points the way, defending universal values and recognizing people's common future. My delegation is calling for a stronger commitment to a rule-based order with an ever-effective Aalco at its center. Mr. President, multilateralism and diplomacy have a proven record of service to people everywhere. Such cooperation cannot be taken for granted at a time when multilateral efforts are under pressure from unresolved conflicts, climate change, widening inequalities, and other threats. Global challenges are increasingly interconnected, but the responses are increasingly fragmented amidst a growing lack of trust in governments, political establishments, and international organizations, as well as the rising appeal of nationalist and populist voices that demonize and divide. Multilateralism must be networked and inclusive, with close cooperation among international and regional organizations, as well as partnerships with businesses, civil society, parliament, academia, the philanthropic community, and others, particularly young people. Strengthening multilateralism means strengthening the commitment to achieving the Sustainable Development Goals and building a world that is safer and more just for future generations. That commitment is needed now more than ever from Aalco and from leaders and citizens everywhere. Mr. President, Nigeria, together with our partners, have consistently taken action to maintain and implement major international agreements, such as the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development and the Paris Agreement on Climate Change. We are delivering on our Paris pledges through ambitious policies at home and decisive support to partner countries. We are intensifying our cooperation with United Nations agencies and regional organizations such as ECOWAS and the African Union to coordinate more on peacekeeping, conflict resolution, humanitarian aid delivery, and better migration management in Syria, Yemen, Libya, and Afghanistan. We have been working to make our multilateral system fit for these challenges, as well as more transparent to deliver on citizens' expectations, not least by fully supporting Aalco and improve the functioning of the World Trade Organization. Mr. President, my delegation wishes to state that it is our collective responsibility to work towards a more peaceful, secure, and prosperous world for present and future generations. The Aalco, together with its member states, will continue to strengthen partnerships to uphold and promote international law and fundamental rights, to support peace and democracy, to stand side by side with people in need all over the world. We will continue to be a principled, reliable, consistent, and cooperative global player, a point of reference. Finally, we wish to express our appreciation to the government and people of Tanzania for hosting the 58th session and the Secretariat for the warm hospitality extended to members of my delegation since our arrival at this historic city of Dar es Salaam. Nigeria reiterates its commitment to Aalco and calls on the organization to continue to provide expert knowledge and guidance to member states. We wish all the delegations fruitful deliberations. Thank you.
When Nigeria speaks, Africa speaks. And when a Nigerian woman speaks, African women speak. Thank you very much, because Nigeria has per capita the highest number of lawyers, and therefore friends and defenders of Aalco. Thank you for your statement. Okay. Now breaking for coffee for 15 minutes, and then we'll come back at 11:30. So we can go. Then when we come back, the following non-members will be invited to speak. It will be Belarus, Germany, Russia, and Afghanistan. That is after the coffee break. Thank you.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to have our tea now. Just a little announcement on the venues. So first, we're going to have the high table, and all ministers, we will have tea in Msasani, which is the room just after this exit. And ushers, please, will assist the delegates to their venue. And ambassadors, high commissioners, and heads of delegates, we will have our tea on the second floor. which is Kitulo and Olduvai, as always. And for every other delegate, our tea is served in the lobby. Now, for today, there are no coupons, so you will be served tea according to your tag, the tag that you're wearing around your neck. If you do not have one, please see the protocol officer at the exit at the back, who will give you a coupon for the tea. If there are any other questions, you will see me for that. And on top of that, just a couple of housekeeping